good morning. You feel that? This Rick Mountain, I got some Bob Marley, he leads the way. This is going to be as a matter of fact, a second good morning to you. This is going to be a serious month. Next 4, well, I'm going to start my month from today. The next 4 weeks we'll be dealing with dying with dignity. Certain questions you have, do you live to die? A baby is born today and you have to go through the pathway, and some of us leave early and some later. Yes, I'm involved in healthcare and saving lives and trying to prolong your life. But the inevitable, dying, we all have to get there, right? When you're young and you're, 19 and 18, you feel very much untouchable. Nobody thinks of death, at that age at least. When you get older and you see your friends around you and their misfortune, and you read the paper and you see young and old, and they're all dying, you wonder, why is it you're so special? Why you alive and they're dead? Why would an 18-year-old come into the office? She ran 5 miles every day, and then suddenly she finds that she walks a block and she started to have shortness of breath. Find out she's got cancer to the breast, to the entire body. How do you explain that? Baby born. And then you grow into a teen and then you die just like that. Mystery, isn't it? Very serious, very serious. Now, for these 4 weeks, we'll be talking about dying with dignity. Now, there's something called euthanasia. I'm not talking about that, where people, they go through a lot of pain. They may be crippled or just severe pain and agony every day, and they want to die, and they want to end their life. That's completely not what we're talking about. I'm talking about someone who've got end-stage cancer. Someone who's terminal. Diagnosis is affirmative. You've got a few days, or maybe a week, to live. Should you go through the pain, the agony, the torture before you leave this world? We'll talk about the right to live, the right to die. When does life start? We'll talk about a living will. We'll talk about all these words: ACLS, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR, and all of those things during these 4 weeks. And I want your thoughts about it, because we're going to form a group. I'm extremely concerned about it, because as a young kid, I'm fixated on this living and dying process, and I just got some questions I need to have answered. And I'm sure there are people like that out there. Why? Does it make sense? You go through the whole process of conception. All right? Let's go through the whole thing, and then I'll come back in a few minutes and we'll talk. The sperm unites with the ovum. Male sperm, female egg or ovum, they form a zygote. That is done in the fallopian tubes of the female, and then that will come down and implant itself into the uterus, which is the womb. But as the cells start to multiply, they form an embryo. And then the embryo emerges into the fetus, and we'll talk about the various stages when the eyes and the heart and the brain, the formation of these organs. But anyway, you have the fetus now, and then the fetus moves on, and then you have the neonate, or the newborn, goes into the toddler, then into the little child, teenage, and then the adult, and then end stage. That's the process of human being. Very serious topic. When does life start? How does it start? When does life end, and how does it end? We'll talk more about this stuff, and I'll take some calls today when we come back. Living with dignity and dying with dignity. Tracy Chapman, give me one reason, and I'll be right back. Yeah, that was Tracy Chapman. That's a big hit. Give me one reason. Give me a reason to live, a reason to die. Yeah, so I want to go. You see, I'm building the stage because we've got 4 weeks. I ain't no rush, ain't going nowhere. But I feel that there are lots of people out there and that have the passion. I do, that I have actually. And come out, and I would want your calls, and I'll tell you later how you can get in touch with me actually, and we can get a movement to change the legislation actually in reference to this stuff, the laws. And as a matter of fact, you have tourists coming to this island, and people got these documentation proxies and so forth that outline living wills, that outline how they should die. How do we deal with these things? Do we regard these legal documents, or don't we? But it's complicated, but we'll dissect it as we normally do and get to the bottom of these things. And I want you to share your thoughts with me. You'll call us a little later. I'll give you a few minutes. You call 434-1791, 434-1790, and 434-1771. We talked about the zygote and the embryo when the cells come together and so forth, and now you're in the uterus. And then after 4 weeks, you have the heart is formed. And, you know, the heart starts to beat by 6 weeks, you know. The brain starts to form, the spinal cord, and then you start to see appendages, the legs and the arms and so forth. As you go on in the weeks, by 3 months, you got everything. What do we do? When does life really start? And then you have the brain, you have the heart is pumping, and then you go down somewhere around 27 weeks, and then you have brain activity. You'll do an EEG in the brain, and you can see things happening. That is why babies within the womb recognize voices of their mom even before they enter this world. So the debate is always there, when does life start? And we have the abortion issue and the pro-life and pro-choice and all those things. And it's legal. Someone feel that they should terminate their baby in 3 months. They can. Now you have people pro and people are against it actually. Whether that abortion really is a life, you terminate it. But we're not going to get into that. I'm just trying to awake your thoughts. So it's right to do that. We'll skip that now and move on to the end. We talked about the progression after you come to the world and you moved. And let's get to the point where you have a terminal illness. Cancer. I'm going to specify cancer because what is cancer really? We talked about really your cells, normally they die and replaced by other cells, most of them within your body. But sometimes the cells decide to repair themselves. And in doing so, they may change up the DNA a little bit, and instead of producing the normal proteins that are produced, that should be produced actually, they produce these abnormal proteins that are no good to the body. And then what's happening is start to replicate in an excessive manner, excessively, and produce these proteins, and then they grow into tumors, and then these tumors spread to other areas. That's what cancer is. Cells that are replicating at a great, really extensive rate, and it moves from one area to the next. So your body filled with these proteins that are no use to you, takes up the normal organs and squeeze them out, and that's what cancer really is. So you can't turn that back. The doctor says, listen, guy, there's nothing I can do for you. You're going to die. Do you believe that it's right for you to leave and go home? If you had the chance to stand up and watch someone die, you would have different thoughts about it. Because what happens, you have the nerves to every organ, and these nerves are sensitive nerves, and the brain will perceive pain. So when tissues die, what happens? You get pain. So the dying process is where the heart starts to slow down, the breathing starts to, you can become dysfunctional, the kidneys start to. So in other words, with the body saying, hey, listen, let me take all of it. I want to concentrate the blood on the areas that are most important. Brain, heart, kidneys, and so forth. Takes the blood away from the skin. That is why your skin is cold when you're dying, right? And shunt it to the more important organs. So when your organs start to die, you start to feel pain. When your bone is not getting blood, you start to feel painful. So you imagine spending the last week or couple of days on this earth, lots of pain and agony. Is that dying in dignity? Dying with dignity, actually, if I should correct myself. Let's go through the stages of dying. First of all, when you're given this diagnosis that you've got terminal disease and metastatic cancer, and there's nothing we can do for you. Surgery, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, nothing can help you. The first thing happens is that you deny it. He says, no, it's not me, somebody else, it can't happen to me. So that's the first stage. You deny the stuff, and each of these stages may last a certain period of time. For some people, it varies with the individual. If you were younger and you would have experienced a near-death experience, actually, you would probably appreciate and be able to appreciate these stages much more. But when you're strong and you're untouchable and suddenly it comes upon you, it's hard to deal with it. People deny. And then eventually, after denial, you go into anger. That's the next stage, where you're frustrated and you're angry. You snap at everything because you're saying, no, it shouldn't happen to you. It's not fair. You start to blame everybody, and you're angry with everybody. And then after that stage, you go into the bargaining stage, where you start to bargain. Well, maybe, if I could only do this, if I can only, whatever treatment I can do, whatever I can do, whatever. People will pay anything for life. When you you don't do it now, but when you're at the end stage, you'll give up your home. People will give up almost anything just to live. I told you the story about Christopher Reeves, what he said. He was riding on his horse and he fell off, and money was never his problem. And he broke his neck, and he's sitting in a wheelchair with a tracheostomy, and he looked through the window and he looked at the bum or the vagrant outside picking up. He says, I want to be that vagrant. Because he said, maybe after I can just find a home and maybe rent a place and live like other people. Because all the money I have, it means nothing. And he's gone. So, bargaining, you bargain. And then stage number 4, depression. This is the terrible stage. You're depressed and you can't even get along with nobody. You don't even want to see anybody. You look at a baby born and you think to yourself, my God, you know, depressing because you think the baby is born to die and all these type of things. And the last stage is acceptance, where when everything you tried. Now, most people turn to religion in crisis, and death in itself is one of the largest crises you'll have. So the 5 stages: first, denial; second, anger; third, bargaining; fourth, depression; and fifth, acceptance. Some people don't. Some people go to bed and never wake up, so they don't know about that stuff. We're talking today about the terminal ill. You're at the end stage of life. There's something called a will, and there's something called a living will. The will is only executed after death. We're talking about your estate and those things. So we're not going to talk about the will today. We'll talk about the living will, or the living proxy, or the advance directives. Those are the names given to wills that can be executed while you're alive. And health decisions should be made. So in other words, everybody should at some time think about what they want to do, or what they want in life, how they want to leave this world. And what we're thinking and what we're talking about for the next, or what we would be talking about for the next 4 weeks is, if I decide that I do not want any heroic measure taken, any whatsoever, to bring me back because it's the end point, I will die in a few days, why put me in a breathing machine? Why pump on my chest and do CPR when it will be futile? Why have me as a vegetable for 2 days when there's no path of return? No, I do not want that. I would like to go and die in dignity. That's what we're talking about. And I'll take a call today. We got 5 minutes, 441771. There's lots of things to talk about, but I just wanted to stimulate your thoughts. And I'll come back in a minute, and we will wrap up things, and we'll continue next week. But dying with dignity. He can only hold her, Amy Whitehouse. That was Amy Winehouse, and he can only hold her. I love her. I love her voice, man. She's just, I could sit and listen to her every day. I love music. Food of love, you know. Everywhere I go, I gotta get some music, even the OR. I play music, man. It suits you. That's good for your soul. And we're talking about living, and we're talking about dying with dignity. And we talked before I left a few minutes ago. We talked about the will, which is the will you'll make for your estate. But we talked about advance directives, which is different, or the living will, which is executed while you're alive, but you may not be able to make the decision because you may be comatose, or you may have a stroke, whatever it is. You cannot. So you assign somebody to make the decision for you, a proxy, or you have an advance directive, a legal document saying, listen, this is what should happen. We're talking about end-stage cancer. We're talking about, and if you, next week when we come back here, if you are an end-stage person and you have your thoughts about this, we want you to share with us. You can email me, dr.sparman@thesparmanclinic.com, dr.sparman@thesparmanclinic.com, and tell me what your thoughts are. And we're going to form this group that will try to see if we can get laws changed here in this country so that people can have that option of dying with dignity. We love you, we care for you, and as always, you know, I always say, on the rock where life starts and life begins. I look forward to seeing you every Saturday morning, and thank you all you listeners for listening to me every Saturday. I know you guys could be doing so many things, and I know people take this special time to sit down there with their coffee and their bakes and the saltfish and so forth, and listen to the doc every Saturday morning, 9 to 9:30 on the VOB, the station where it counts. I'm getting out of here, and don't forget, do some research on it. Go on the internet, and we can get some action here, because next week I'll be taking a lot of your calls, and I'll talk to you next week when I come back. I love you, I care for you, and boys to mend, end of the road.